All right, we're back already. You don't know that we're recording this back to back, but I just told you that we are.
Back to back.
Episode 2 of the podcast.
Like Jordan 96, 97.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of my favorite lines, bro. Back to back like I'm Jordan 96, 97. That's such a dope line, bro.
It is dope.
Thanks, Drake.
I mean, I'm not a Jordan fan, but whatever. I like his shoes. I like his shoes. So this time, a lot more lighthearted, probably.
Yes.
Probably. That first one, kind of a little bit darker. Let us know your thoughts on that first one, for sure.
Not necessarily darker, just heavier.
Heavier.
Yeah.
Darker's not right, you're right. Anyway, so on the subject of talking about a lot of different things, we want to talk about Kenobi, which is a Disney Plus series coming out this Friday, which we are recording this. It is the 22nd?
I think so.
23rd?
It's the 23rd. Monday the 23rd.
Of May 2022.
2022.
Yeah. It's crazy. But we want to talk about this because Star Wars has always had kind of a big role in our pop culture loving lives.
Yeah, we grew up as the prequel movies were coming out. So we always were playing with lightsabers. Tanner and Jordan had every freaking Star Wars toy, especially from Episode 2.
Yeah.
I swear you guys had every single toy from that. You had like the speeder, the yellow speeder that like the front could crush.
Yep.
You had the 3 different like weird animals that they have to fight at the end.
Yep.
Every toy that came out from that movie, you guys had it.
Yeah, we had an Anakin with the blue and the green lightsaber from the end when they fight Dooku.
Yep.
We had 3 or 4 versions of Obi-Wan throughout the movie. We had, Jango. We had Dooku himself. I think you're right. We probably had like 3 or 4 action figures from like every scene in that movie.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. And that's how much we liked it. Just a show. But, so, I mean, that came out in what? 2000...
Early 2000s.
Early 2000s, before 2005, which is when Revenge of the Sith came out. So with that said, this Kenobi series that's releasing, being about Obi-Wan Kenobi after the events of those 3 films, and it being the same person, Ewan McGregor, who's playing Kenobi, is huge for both of us. We're super hyped about this. We've been talking about it forever. Anytime something new comes out with a leak, or with some details about what's going to happen in the show, we're sending it to each other back and forth, like ecstatic about this show.
So I'm just gonna start with this leak that I saw yesterday.
Okay, throw it at me.
So, and maybe you've seen this, maybe you have, I don't know. So I saw a clip that it hurt. It was like I almost teared up a little bit watching it.
I didn't see it then.
So it's Obi-Wan and he's talking to Owen, and they're kind of in this weird like little kind of alleyway in Tatooine.
Maybe I do know what you're talking about.
Oh my gosh, dude, heavy.
Yes.
And
Owen being Owen Lars, Luke's uncle.
Luke's uncle, yeah. So he's talking to him, and he's like, Obi-Wan's like asking, how's he doing? I won't call him Ben. I can't. Yeah. He'll always be Obi-Wan. Ewan McGregor's Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
So he's asking him, how's he doing? And Owen's like, you don't want to know how he's doing. You just want to see if he's showing.
Ooh.
Is this sounding familiar?
Yes.
And then he's like, no, like we agreed on this. Like when he comes of age, like I need to train him. And Owen just fires back. He's like you trained his father. Bro, almost cried, man. Almost cried. Because I had never thought of that, man. Like, Owen, like, I didn't think of anything like the dynamic of Owen. Like, handing him over, and it's like, dude, my brother is, as far as I know, dead because of you. Like, that person doesn't exist anymore because you couldn't save them.
Right. And obviously, I don't think Owen had any idea that Anakin is Vader at that point, or did he ever before he died?
I think you're right.
In A New Hope. But yeah, I feel like there's going to be so many moments like that where it's like, oh.
Just didn't even think about it.
So many things we didn't think about that are just like extreme consequences of what happened in the prequels.
Yeah. Which really, like, I feel like there's so much redemption that this series could bring to the prequels, because the prequels are just, like, for lack of a better term, just shit on all the time because they're made so poorly.
Yeah.
Like, the story is not lacking at all, just the execution on that, so poor.
Right. Yeah. And I think it's because, I mean, people can look into this all they want, but from my point of view, it's just because George Lucas tried to do too much with the prequels. I think he tried to do too much of the writing, too much of the directing, or maybe he just needed to be in charge of the story. Because I think he had a lot of these ideas ever since 77 when he first came up with Star Wars and it released.
Right. Well, and there's a lot of footage from special features of interviews with Lucas, and he just like very nonchalantly explains something, and it's like, what the hell, bro? Like, if we could have gotten some context on that would have made it so much better. Like the one you were talking about like the high ground thing. That's such a meme, but I'll have you explain that. Like, why that's such a cool thing, you know?
Yeah, so obviously the famous scene at the end of Revenge of the Sith, Anakin says, "You underestimate my power." And that's right after Obi-Wan has said he has the high ground. Don't try it, right? And he says don't try it because that's exactly what Obi-Wan tried in The Phantom Menace with Darth Maul, right? So Obi-Wan is hanging from that little thing in a tube that goes down who knows where. And Darth Maul is just like cockily standing up,
taunting him, you know.
He doesn't want to just kill him. He's like, I have to show you that I'm better than you.
And he's really saying, he's like, try it.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like he's like, try it. Come on, bro.
Yeah, absolutely. And Obi-Wan flips over him, cuts him in half. And because Darth Maul was so arrogant, he couldn't understand that was even a possibility of that happening.
Because like it shouldn't be possible. Obi-Wan's a freaking Padawan. Darth Maul's a Sith Lord. Like, I think that gets like glossed over a lot too, because Obi-Wan beat him. People don't understand how powerful Darth Maul is.
Right. And he absolutely destroyed Qui-Gon. Let's not be frank about that.
Murked the dude, bro.
Yeah. And that's Qui-Gon's a Jedi master, one of the best in the Order.
Yes, one of the best Force users. Like, someone who's so in sync with the Force and still gets murked by Darth Maul, bro.
Yeah, Darth Maul was just too powerful for him, straight up.
Especially just as a duelist. Like, just clapped him, bro.
Exactly. But then, because of that, it gives Obi-Wan the chance to actually kill him in return. So, back to that scene in Revenge of the Sith, when Obi-Wan says don't try it, he knows exactly what is going through Anakin's head at that moment, right? Anakin, being Obi-Wan's Padawan for so long, has heard about that instance of Obi-Wan flying over Darth Maul and cutting him so many times. He's probably replayed it in his own head and done it in training.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Practice that move just in case he ever had to do it. So that's the one thing that's in his mind when he realizes the positioning of himself and Obi-Wan in Revenge of the Sith. It's like, I'm way more powerful than Obi-Wan ever will be.
And he's always wanted a chance to show it.
And he's always wanted a chance. He's always wanted to prove to Obi-Wan because he always felt internally like he wasn't good enough.
Yeah. So
he tries it, but Obi-Wan's not arrogant. He's not Darth Maul. He just turns and cuts his legs off before he even lands.
Yeah. And it's like... we didn't get any of that. We didn't get like a flashback scene. We didn't get... There was no foreshadowing to that in the film. There was no one talking about... how awesome would that have been, showing like someone in the Senate like coming up and being like, oh, this is Obi-Wan. Yeah. You did this. How awesome would that have been?
Well, that's something that Marvel does incredibly well, is they foreshadow huge moments like that.
Yeah, that's true.
That's something that's incredibly lacking in those three Star Wars films. But yeah, if that was just written in there somewhere, imagine how much more powerful that moment is.
Yeah.
And me being a nerd, I went and sought out and found that information. about
Which otherwise
why
you never would have had.
Yeah, and for those of you listening, you probably didn't know that.
Yeah.
Taylor only knows that because I
knew
told
that.
him.
Yeah.
But like all of those moments that are actually really cool, and when you're a kid, you don't really care about necessarily what's happening, so you just think it's awesome.
Yeah, they have freaking lightsabers, so it's sick.
Right. But if you're a fan of the original films and you saw them growing up, and then you see this, it's like, meh.
Yeah.
None of this is explained.
What's the hype about?
Yeah, what's going on?
It's kind of random. That whole Mustafar like duel, which is not even arguably, it's the greatest lightsaber duel
It's not
in
even close.
all of Star Wars
It's
cinematic
incredible,
history.
and Ewan and Hayden did it all themselves too.
Which is so freaking
Besides
awesome.
their parts where it's CGI, but
Do you know who did the blocking for that?
I believe you've told me this. Steven Spielberg. did.
Yes, yeah. Because thank goodness, because
I know.
George Lucas was gonna do it, but he was just he was exhausted by that point, and he was like, I can't. Like he called him up because they're good friends.
Right.
He's like, can you do this for me? I'm so exhausted. Like, I can't even get like a good perspective on this. And again, thank goodness.
I know, for real. Thank you, Steven, for helping us with this amazing scene.
Big shout out to Steve.
It is my favorite scene in all of Star Wars.
Dude, my favorite scene is after that, bro. Padme holding the necklace in the funeral, bro. That crushes me every time I see that. And seeing Jar Jar just like trudge along so sad. I'm like, that's the only time I've ever liked his character.
I
Just
know,
seeing
for
him
real.
so depressed.
Seeing depressed Jar Jar. Oh. Let's not get started too much on other prequel.
Anyway, yeah. Back to Kenobi. There's a lot of redemption that they could do with this.
Yeah, and you get the point with the story of the prequels being good but not being executed properly in the films themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So we're thinking like at this point, because the guys who were in charge, Dave Filoni, who's basically Star Wars'
Basically a god.
reincarnation of George Lucas himself, basically. And George Lucas isn't dead, by the way. But and then forgetting my other friend's name.
I don't know the other guy's name.
But basically, the people who are in charge of Star Wars right now are actually Star Wars fans, which makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
Because I think, more background, I think they realized that the sequels, so the 3 films that have come out in the last 10 years or so, were
dog water,
failures.
Bro. Dog water. Because they weren't made by Star Wars fans.
Right. They were made by people who want money.
Yes.
In Disney.
Yes. And there's a lot of just like horrible, random like thematic things that are thrown in there, like in the second installment of that series, where Finn and that lady have that whole weird like adventure thing on that other planet.
Horse things on a lottery Vegas type.
Yeah,
planet.
and they like liberate all those child slaves and stuff. It's like, okay, that's not moving the story anywhere.
It has nothing to do with the story.
No, and it's like, what?
Yeah,
it's just so unnecessary.
And it's just there was a clear lack of direction with those films.
Yeah,
and you can see that even just with the directors and how many people like dropped out. Like
they had so many different screenwriters.
Yeah.
They changed directors halfway through it.
The 9th one was rewritten like four or 5 times, I think, and had ended up being the 3rd choice director. And,
it's so awful.
Yeah. Anyway, so none of those directors and screenwriters are still doing this, from my knowledge.
Yeah. The
people who are in charge of it, specifically Dave Filoni, who did most of the Clone Wars, which is an animated series of Star Wars, which is incredible.
It's the best thing about the prequels outside of certain elements from episode 3.
Yeah, I agree. But so he's basically in charge of a lot of the major decisions. And with that being said, there's a lot more expectation now on this Kenobi series because of some of the successes that they've put out recently, right?
Mhm.
So we're talking, right, The Mandalorian 1 and 2, Boba Fett,
Mhm.
the Book of Boba Fett, and just like different things, like different elements that they've put in there, and they're kind of homaging the things that people really like about Star Wars in these shows.
Yeah, keeping that nostalgia, but also pushing another storyline is really
right. Getting
like,
away
from
the
really nice
Skywalker saga
there. Yeah.
a little bit,
Mhm.
and showing these other cool stories about characters that are really like actually intriguing, that aren't just overpowered as hell.
And that's something that I'm really excited to see, is them just like exploring Obi-Wan, you know? I mean, he's at a point now where literally like he's failed, bro.
At everything.
At everything. They've lost the Clone Wars. His Padawan and best friend is now completely encapsulated in the dark side. He has to watch Luke now, and how he's going to try and balance that, because we know that he doesn't reveal who he is until Episode 4.
Right.
You know?
Which happens 10 years after this Kenobi series.
Right. There's also other Jedi out there who are, you know, his friends, his comrades. What's he gonna do about them? But
and
he also
knows
can't.
how many lives are lost.
Yeah.
With the Jedi as well.
And he can't. But he can't expose himself at the same time, because he has a higher mission of training Luke.
Right.
You know.
Absolutely.
Like, it's so that's something I'm really excited to see, is just how they, like, his development arc, how he actually becomes Ben Kenobi, you know?
Yeah, the wise old Jedi Master that we see
Mm-hmm.
in A New Hope.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of, he almost has that calmness to him in that movie.
That's like everything's gonna work out,
Yeah.
you know? Where at this point, everything is in shambles.
Yeah.
Like, the only thing that could make it worse is if Luke died.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's like, how does he get from that to this sense that we get from him in Episode 4 of like, it's gonna be cool. And he even just takes himself out of the equation.
Yeah.
You know, because he's like, my job is done.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely. So, obviously, I think the arc, in my mind, is him at the beginning being just incredibly lost, right? And
Dude,
then,
how close is it to?
I think it's exactly in the middle. So 10 years after Revenge of the Sith.
Oh, so we're not picking up like.
No.
Oh,
So
but there's
we're-
gotta be flashbacks to it.
Oh
though,
no,
right?
we're definitely getting flashbacks.
Okay. Okay.
Ewan basically confirmed it himself
Okay.
in an
Sweet.
interview. But being at a point where, like what Taylor was saying with Owen, that conversation that Obi-Wan and Owen have, like being torn, not knowing what to do with this Luke situation, trying to keep yourself hidden while wanting to train him in the Force, probably realizing all of these things, not knowing how to just be a normal person.
Yeah. Well, I think he really gets like to Obi-Wan's pretty close to like a true Jedi, you know.
Yeah.
And it's got to be so hard to see like the Empire grow,
Yeah.
and him really just being like, I have to just kind of sit on this,
Yeah.
you know.
And especially knowing that everything about who he has been his entire life is like shunned now, like being destroyed.
Yeah.
Everything about his religion as a Jedi
Uh-huh.
is purposely being destroyed by the Empire because they don't want it to come back, because they
Mhm.
want to stay in power.
How do you practice that still? How do you
Right? Without drawing attention to yourself.
exactly?
Yeah, so I think there will be that difficult balance in the beginning of the show. And in my mind, obviously we know that he's not going to die, right?
Right.
Obviously we know the Vader's not going to die. So it'll be about, like, how do you kind of balance those characters and make it really intriguing, and then get to a point where the series means something in the end too, right?
Yeah.
So it's almost like bringing him from Revenge of the Sith to A New Hope in a 6-episode series.
Which is so wild, bro.
It's so crazy I'm even saying that.
Also, though, somehow, Ahsoka and Maul play into that.
Yeah.
You know, because we've seen like photo shoots of all of them.
Right.
You know, so we know that they're gonna be there somehow. But
Yeah.
what's the dynamic of that?
Yeah, with Maul especially for me, because I don't know, we may have talked about this before too, but Obi-Wan kills Maul before A New Hope. In a
Yes,
different series.
yeah.
Which happens in a different animated series, also by Filoni, but that happens before A New Hope.
Which series is that?
That is Rebels. Star Wars
That.
Rebels. That one I don't like as much. I haven't watched all the way through, just like the big episodes I've watched.
Is that the one with like the shaggy haired? Is that they have the really skinny lightsabers in that one?
Yes,
Okay.
they do.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one.
Yeah. I don't think it's as good as the Clone Wars from what I've seen, but I mean there are still really cool moments in it. But how they implement those characters, because I think Ahsoka has to be in it.
Yeah.
If you don't know anything about the Clone Wars, I mean, you probably would have seen her by now if you've watched The Mandalorian Season 2, because she was in that as well. But she's just as big of a part of Star Wars as, like, Han Solo.
Oh, easily.
Which sounds crazy if you've never seen it, but she is.
Easily. I think she's gonna die in this, bro. I honestly
Wow.
think she's gonna die, which is gonna be so
No,
fun.
no, she won't, because this is happening before Rebels, and she's in Rebels.
True. How many installments of this are they gonna do, though?
Who knows? That's a good question. Well, and she has her own show, too, that they've announced. Which is supposed to be at the end of this year, I think. Or into next year.
Does she have the white lightsabers in it?
Yeah.
Bro.
But yeah, I mean, she's an awesome character as well. Filoni created her. Thank you, Filoni.
Thanks,
Our
Falal.
Lord and Savior.
So, question for you, Tanner. What are the things you think they absolutely like need to do in these episodes, and what are things that they absolutely need to avoid?
Well, I think the very most important thing is getting Vader right. I think Vader is the most iconic figure in cinema history.
Yeah.
And I'm not even saying that jokingly.
Easily the most iconic villain ever.
Yeah. And I think because of just villains in general, I think they stand out more than heroes in some instances.
Yeah.
And I think that this is such a pivotal time for him as a character. And it's something that when you think about it, we know so little about Vader himself, like after the events of Revenge of the Sith.
Mm-hmm.
We see glimpses of him in those final 3 movies, but most of it's just based on whatever's happening with Luke and Han and Leia or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So...
And at that point, honestly, he's pretty, like, lifeless.
Yeah.
You know? Like,
Exactly.
he's not even really, like, bad at that point. He's just not anything. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it'll be really interesting to see... I mean, the one driving force in his... There's 2 driving forces for him right now in terms of, like, the lore of this time period. And that's he wants to kill Obi-Wan more than anything, and he wants to bring Padme back. Those are the 2 things that drive him from day
I
to
didn't
day.
even think about that second thing, bro.
I mean, there's books and comics about it, like him just trying to do that. Those are the only 2 things he cares about, right? So we better see a pretty dang motivated Vader to get those 2 things done in this series, right? So if he
Yeah.
hears even... I assume that's why he's in it, right?
Uh-huh.
I can't see them getting it too wrong, but if they get it wrong, I'll be super disappointed.
Man, I didn't even think about the whole Padme thing, bro. Does he know that she was pregnant?
At this point, well, yeah, he knows that she was pregnant, but he assumed they both died, or they died in childbirth as well.
Right.
He doesn't even know they were twins.
Right.
All he knows from his recollection is that from when he was Anakin, and she tells him, right?
Right, that's right.
And he knows,
yeah, that's wonderful.
I actually think his acting is not bad in that. The line is terrible.
The line's awful. All of his lines are awful in that movie.
If you watch just his acting before he says that, he goes through all of the emotions
Yes,
in his face, and it's
yeah.
actually really good.
Yeah.
Again, writing terrible. George Lucas shouldn't have done it. But anyway, I think that we need to see quite a bit of Vader. And I think we need to see a lot of what his motivation is at this time. And just the exact same thing for Obi-Wan. I mean, it has to, I've heard that it's super character driven, which is super exciting to me, that it's not about the story as much.
Yeah.
But I mean, these are two characters that people care about so much.
Arguably more than any other.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think Luke is the only one that you can even put into the same category as these two. I think those three are like the pillars of Star Wars. And you just have to get it right.
Mm-hmm. This is the one time that I actually really would like to see at least a little bit of Palpatine.
Yeah.
And see the dynamic between Palpatine and Vader.
Which at this point it's not good.
Yeah. Because he's like, what the hell, man? That didn't work.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. All of these things that he was promised right before he goes to Mustafar. Speaking about Anakin here. So Palpatine promises him all these things and tells him like how powerful he is, and he believes, like, to his downfall, that he's like the greatest thing ever at this point in Revenge of the Sith, and that's why he turns into Vader, the machine Black Vader. But I mean, I feel like there will have to be some of that power dynamic between Palpatine and Vader in the show as well, because that's another thing that's super important to Vader's character himself. Back to your initial question, which I spent a lot of time on the first half.
No, you're good.
I really don't want to see them focusing on this Inquisitor character that they've kind of shown.
Yes.
The actress's name, her first name is Moses, and bless her heart, I watched an interview. She said, never really watched Star Wars or been into it. I was like, this is not the project for you to be thrown into. And I feel bad because I think that she will die. I think that she has to, because she's not in anything past, nor any of the Inquisitors really, but she's not in Rebels, which is all about the Inquisitors. Which, for background, the Inquisitors are like just Jedi hunters that are
they Force users?
They're dark side users, but they're not nearly as powerful.
Okay.
As what Vader and Palpatine would be, obviously, or else there'd be a crazy power dynamic.
Right. Were they, so at this point, were they once Jedi then? Or?
Some of them, yes. I don't know. My knowledge on this is a little bit meh. But essentially, they're either leftover, like Jedi Padawans that were turned and tortured and turned into these dark side monsters just to hunt Jedi, and that's probably 90% of them.
Okay.
And other ones are like people that were like Palpatine was aware of, were Force users that were kind of just doing their own thing, didn't even care about whatever the galactic conflict was for the Clone Wars.
Right.
But specifically her character, I don't remember what her name is. But I just don't care. If she's a side character and she serves like a really good purpose, then I'm all for it. But I don't want to hear about her backstory at this point.
No.
I'm sure we'll get a little bit of it. But, I mean, that's not what anyone's here for this series.
Right. I agree. Yeah, I don't think there's not a reason to introduce anyone because everyone's already there, you know, which was the huge mistake that they made with the last installment, the last 3-movie installment of Star Wars was we don't care about any of these people.
Yeah, or why, and why should we?
Right. And don't make them connected to people that we do care about.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
If you're going to do it new, it needs to be totally, totally new and fresh with no connections or anything to any of the people that we care about so much.
Yeah, they tried to do a weird mix of both, and the dynamic just didn't work for most people.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are kids that love it, which is what we thought about the prequels.
Right.
But, I mean, we won't hear from them for another 10, 15 years, so
True.
they're terrible.
As it stands, dog water.
Dog water.
I was gonna say that. I always forget, bro. Yeah, it'll be interesting though. John Williams is doing the soundtrack, so
yes, he is.
The Duel of the Fates and Battle of the Heroes medley in the trailer.
Yeah.
I watched the trailer 7 times just to hear that over and over and
It's
over
so
again.
Good. It's so good. That's one thing that I think everyone should be able to agree on Star Wars is that just John Williams has absolutely blown it out of the park.
Every single time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I actually listen to the Revenge of the Sith soundtrack like once a week.
It's so good, dude.
It's so good. I mean, it's just so good.
It's so freaking good, dude.
Duel of the Fates is amazing.
Uh-huh.
Obviously, some of the original ones are amazing. They're even more iconic ones.
Leia's theme is incredible, bro.
Yeah, it is.
Like, that's something that's so unfortunate about all of his music, is that all of his music is just a meme now.
Yeah.
You know? Jurassic Park, amazing soundtrack, but it's just Jurassic Park music now.
Right.
E.T., amazing. It's just E.T. music now.
Yeah.
But
Superman theme?
yeah.
Yeah.
It's a meme.
It's all a meme.
All of the original Hogwarts, like Harry Potter themes and stuff, leaving Hogwarts is heavy, bro.
Yeah.
It's
And
tough.
it's all brilliant music. It's amazing how many hits he has had on that side.
Mhm.
But
Rest assured, at least that is in the bag.
we know for sure the music will be good for the series.
Yes.
We don't have to worry about that.
Yes.
Even the guy who's done some of the Mandalorian ones, Ludwig Göransson, I believe his name
Like,
is.
gee, dude.
He is really
He's so good.
too.
He did the Tenet soundtrack.
He did.
He did the Creed movies.
Mm-hmm.
Incredible.
I recently saw he co-wrote on a Kendrick song, I believe, which is crazy, or did something with it.
Yes. Because they got to know each other for the Black Panther album.
Right.
Yeah. Man, we could talk about that for a long time.
Yeah.
We should do a whole episode on the Black Panther album.
Yeah, we should do. We'll probably do a lot of music on this. Just a heads up. We'll probably do a lot of pop culture. We'll probably do with this one. We'll probably do a post Kenobi as well,
For sure.
with how well it met our expectations and stuff like that.
Okay, this is what I was gonna say earlier. Something that I would love to see, bro, because this is like rumored a lot, and this is something that hasn't ever been confirmed. If Mace actually died, bro.
Oh.
Imagine one of the Inquisitors pulls up and just not even knowing that it's him. They just know, rumored, hey, we think there's a Jedi over there.
Yeah.
And he just murks him, bro.
Oh man.
How dude, that I think that more than anything else would give me like chills. It's just seeing Mace Windu, who's now kind of like accepted his dark side tendencies,
right,
but isn't necessarily like a Sith.
Exactly.
And it's just has that strength, and he's literally just kind of like an animal out there, bro.
Yeah.
Like, that would be incredible. That would be a really cool dynamic to see of Obi-Wan trying to like save him.
Yeah.
You know, that would be really cool.
It'd be really interesting seeing some of his if they did do that, seeing some of the backstory and how he got to that point would be super interesting.
That would be sick.
That would have to be a series in itself, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
But
yeah.
I mean, that's something that's been talked about for a really long time. Like, we don't know if he died.
No, we don't.
And another thing that a lot of people probably don't know is those dark side tendencies that Mace has. That's what makes him so powerful. What has made him be such an important figure on the Jedi Council in those years of the Clone Wars. Such an important warrior is he has this darkness to him.
Like, people don't realize the magnitude that he pretty much just 1v1 Palpatine, bro.
And destroyed him until Anakin stepped in.
Like, handily, like very easily.
Yeah.
You know? And
People
we
overlook it.
after just seeing all of these Jedi Masters get cut down so easily, and
He actually puts up a fight and he wins
Bro.
convincingly.
Incredible. It's hard, like, man, that would be a cool thing to see, and then to see a Vader Windu fight. Because I'm imagining we get a little bit more of a mobile Vader, you know.
Yeah, somewhat, I would think.
Not crazy because he still has all of his like animatronics or whatever.
Right.
But I feel like he would be a little bit more mobile.
Yeah.
But also,
He's
like,
definitely more active at this point.
Yeah.
And trying to hunt down Jedi himself.
But I think also it'll be cool to see him develop into more of a Force user, because that's really
That's what we
all
see.
he does.
And that, except for when he fights Luke the handful of times. That's all we see.
And the freaking
The hallway scene. Easily my second favorite scene of all of Star Wars. In Rogue One, when Darth Vader turns on his lightsaber and just annihilates rebel soldiers in that hallway.
Oh my gosh, dude.
Pretty much the coolest thing ever.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
That's one movie that they did incredibly well with. That's been since Disney bought Star Wars.
Yeah, they did really, really well with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, back to Kenobi once again. We have super high expectations of it. As you've heard us talk, I'm sure you can tell why and why it means so much to us. But I'm almost more nervous for it than excited at this point because it keeps getting closer, and I'm worried that my expectations are too high. But I am hopeful that our guys are going to knock it out of the park. So let's hope. Should we jump into Stranger Things as well in the same one?
Yeah, let's talk
same
about
day.
it a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know what to expect, bro. Being totally honest.
I know. Everything I've seen. So, Stranger Things 4 releases the same time, same day, this Friday. And I've seen so much about it being, first of all, way longer. Like, there's something crazy like 3 or 4 to 6 more hours of footage just in the episodes alone.
They're splitting it up into 2 different installments for this season.
Right. And then it's also going to be way darker, way heavier.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, they've already done that every season. They get darker every year.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit creepier, and I don't know what to expect at this point.
I think this season honestly makes or breaks the show.
Yeah, I think you're right. I because the first 3 were so good, especially 1 and 3. I thought 2 was good, but it's my least favorite of the 3.
2 was like strictly developmental,
right?
Which I love it because of the results, but it's not as good to watch.
Yeah, I agree. And there are moments that are incredible, but there are also some really down moments that are the slowest and the most boring in all of the series.
Yeah.
But like I said, because of the track record of the 3 seasons, I have a hard time believing that they're going to get it wrong.
I agree. And so when they announced that they were going to release it into 2 different, they were going to release an installment a month apart from each other. They said, we have had this planned out, the whole series planned out before we started releasing any episodes, and we still have 1 more season to do.
Yeah.
So that gives me confidence in them, because they at least have a place they're taking it.
Yeah.
They're not just like, well, we could all get a good check from doing another season. So
yeah, the creators, they're brothers if I remember correct. I'm not remembering their names, but they seem to really care about this series and about the characters and about everything involved, which I mean makes sense when it's something that's you love so much and you created and you've seen a lot of success doing as well. You want to make it that much better. I've also heard that it has the biggest budget of any TV shows like ever.
It's of any Netflix original.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's what I meant.
Which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, kind of nuts.
It'll be interesting because like Elle doesn't have her powers. There was something that looked like Max has powers though in that last trailer.
Yeah, I saw that.
That I don't know how to take that. So we saw something last night that made it look like Billy is gonna be in this season. So I wonder if there's a connection there between Max having powers and Billy being like this upside down kind of creature now.
Monster.
Yeah.
Yeah. It'd be really interesting. And I wonder how... I mean, I assume it would be taken well. Because I know Billy's character was like... I thought he nailed it. The actor did in season 3. And I think he's probably the most intriguing character for the most part in the series.
Mm-hmm.
And then... I mean, I feel like they can't do anything wrong at this point. Just because I think that the fan base is incredibly dedicated
for sure
to these people.
And there's so many ways that you could take it. You know, we know Hopper isn't dead.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's
They've
like
shown
in
us
Russia.
that several times, yeah.
And it seems like, you know, all of this is kind of classic 80s themed, you know, Russians are the bad guys, whatever.
Yeah.
But it's from the clips that we've seen of Hopper, like, having to fight, like, Demogorgons in the, like, camps there. It seems like they don't really have a very good grasp on what's going on.
Yeah.
You know? So that'll be really interesting as well. I feel like the only people who really know what's up are is the people from Hawkins.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Which will be interesting to see how they reintegrate that.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of people, like, could get used and stuff because of their knowledge, especially Will. I mean, he lived there.
Yeah, he survived there.
Yeah.
Avoiding the Demogorgon for...
like a month.
Yeah, crazy amount of time.
Which I honestly think Will is a super underrated character. Everyone, like, says a bunch of crap about Will because he's, like...
Because he has to be rescued, and he's kind of weak, and then in the season 3, he's like... Oh, I just want to be a kid again.
Yeah, and everyone's like, oh, that was so dumb. Like, it's so annoying. It's like, dude...
He got his childhood taken
away from him, bro. He was possessed by a demon.
And then he lived in a demonic world, too. How could you...
all I would want to do is play freaking Dungeons & Dragons, bro. Like,
same. I mean, it'd be different in our day and age, obviously. Just video games.
Right.
Yeah. I think the way they develop characters is really good. It'll be really interesting to see what they do with Max. Because I think her character is good, but it's never, like, stood out.
Yeah, I really like her character. I think another thing that's going to be, like, a cool, interesting dynamic to see... what's his name? What are all the kids' names? There's Mike, Will, Dustin, and... I can never remember his name, bro.
I should pull it up. I should have my phone ready for research purposes while we're talking. We're still new at this, by the way, if you didn't notice. Let's see. And let's see.
Lucas,
that's right. I knew it started with an L.
So, Lucas... is like more popular now. He's on the basketball team. Like, I think it's gonna like cause a rift, you know, in their friendship.
I mean, there has to be at some point, right? They've been so close for the most part.
Yeah.
And they're also at different schools now in different states, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yes. The Byers are.
The Byers
have moved.
And they took L.
Yes.
Yeah.
But everyone's still in Hawkins.
Yeah.
Steve and Jonathan, and Nancy, they're all out of high school.
They're all that much older. I mean, there's been quite a gap when you think about it between the last time and now. I know Millie Bobby Brown is 18. She was 15 or 14 when the last time it was being just recorded.
Yeah.
Or filmed, I mean. Recorded. That's weird. Why did I say that?
Last time they captured the motion picture.
I'm from the 1840s, where they didn't do film then either, so that makes any less sense. Okay, I'm going to stop talking now.
But yeah, that'll be really interesting just to see the dynamic between the kids. I think it has to change.
Yeah.
It's just gonna be sad, bro. Like, it's gonna be really sad.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's going to be dark and sad for this new season. Which, I mean, it kind of has to almost take that turn for a crazy final season in 5, potentially, right?
I have no clue where it's gonna go. I have no clue.
It's hard to say, really, because they've done a really good job so far with bringing each season to a conclusion and a point where you really can't guess what's going to happen next.
Yes.
Every single one.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the first one, they save Will, they kill the Demogorgon, and then they're like, oh, we're safe, right? And then at the end of the second one, Elle closes the portal.
Dude,
Which
that
is a
was
cringe-
so freaking amazing,
Yeah,
bro.
it's a really cool scene. That's what I mean about season 2 is like has really awesome moments, but then there's the one where like she's in Chicago and it's just kind of like where Elle's in Chicago,
all
it's like
edgy.
and with these other people, and it's like
Yeah.
I don't really like this. So this isn't why I watch this show.
I love it for her realizing what she's going to do with her powers, though.
Right.
I
mean, that's the whole reason it's in there for sure.
Yeah, but it's a tough watch for sure.
Yeah.
But
And then at the end of season 3, when they kill that demonic,
the like mind wrangler or whatever it's called.
Yeah, I don't remember what it's called. And Billy as well
Billy,
dies,
bro.
and
Hopper just jumps into it.
Hopper sacrifices himself. They close the portal again,
Mhm.
from a different spot, or no, the same spot. Yeah, because it just reopened secretly below the mall, right?
Yeah.
That's right. But yeah, I mean, they bring it all to a close every time, with just leaving like a few hints of like, ooh, what's gonna happen next?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
And
know.
it's like increasingly like, well, because like you said, at the end of the first one, they kill a Demogorgon.
How could it get bigger than that? The Demogorgon was like the worst thing ever in that series.
And there's multiple Demogorgons by the time we're in season 3.
Right.
You know?
And they're not even the big bad.
No. Which is, it's so crazy, bro.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. So this next thing is gonna be, I don't even know what it's gonna be, bro.
I don't know. I mean, I don't really necessarily even have expectations for it at this point.
I
Just
don't either.
interested.
It's just gonna be, I'm just excited to watch it.
Yeah, me too.
You know?
That'll be good.
Which, like, it's a testament to how well they've set themselves up with the writing. Like,
For sure. Yeah. They've definitely done themselves a lot of favors with the first. Just ever since, what was it, like 2013, 2014 when the first season came out?
mhm.
Just crazy to think about it as that long ago in the first place.
Dude, I remember some kid loved Stranger Things. I never watched it, that first season when it came out.
Yeah, same.
And there was one point when McKay and I were like watching a movie or something, and I fell asleep. And then he put Stranger Things on to watch from where he was. And I woke up in the middle of the night to where Elle in the first season is in, like, when they do like the pool stuff with
That's
her.
crazy. I had the same experience. I'll tell you.
And she
finish.
like touches it and it turns around like,
Yeah.
man. And I like just woke up kind of like discombobulated, like what? And then that happened. I was like, freaked me out, bro. And I was like, no, I'm not watching this show. Are you kidding me?
That's so crazy. Mirror experience for me. My parents and Lexi were watching it, and I wasn't paying attention. I think I was on my phone. I'd like just come out of the bathroom or something, and it got to that part, and they're like, it's in this weird world, and this little girl is walking up to this demonic creature, like,
That's like eating something.
yeah, and you're like, what is going on? And then exact same thing. I see that part. It's like, I'm not watching this crap.
No, wait, I hate horror movies.
I hate scary stuff.
Because I just immediately labeled it as that. I was like, nope, I'm
Me
good.
too. And then I binged all 3 seasons when season 3 came out.
So good, dude.
Yeah.
Dude, I remember watching the season 3 finale with you and Becky.
Yeah.
bawling my freaking eyes out, bro, when she's reading Hopper's letter.
Oh man. Yeah.
Bro.
It's tough. Hopper might be my favorite character as well.
Yeah, he's my favorite.
So it made it that much harder. Even if we kind of knew he wasn't dead.
Still, dude, it was tough, man.
Yeah. We spent, after we watched that, it was like 2 or 3 hours, we just talked about it. It was like, what's going to happen next?
Yeah.
What about all these things? Like, there's no way he's actually dead. That was a lot of fun, too.
Yeah.
It was a fun memory of
a lot
you
of just
and Becky.
speculation and stuff.
Yeah.
That quote that he has, like, about the cave is one of my favorite things.
You'll have to remind me, I'm not remembering.
Let me see if I can find it here real quick. Hold on. So he leaves like this note for Elle. Kind of like he just knows that she's about to experience like something really, really hard, you know?
Right.
But in it, he talks about like everything that happened when his daughter died. He talks about this cave that he goes into, and he just like stays in there, you know. He says, "I've been stuck in one place, in a cave, you might say, a deep, dark cave." And he says that's like he would just allowed himself to be there, you know. He was not trying to come out at all or anything. And she's the one that kind of brought him out. And then later, he says, this is how he closes the letter. He's like, "So you know what? Keep growing up, kid. Don't let me stop you. Make mistakes, learn from them. And when life hurts you, because it will, remember the hurt. The hurt is good. It means you're out of that cave." That is so powerful to me, because a lot of times, like, it's so easy to just shut emotion off and just be like, no, like, screw this, I don't want to feel any of this, you know? And I think that's really when you know that you're kind of in trouble, like, as far as, like, any kind of depression or anything like that goes. When you start to say, I don't really want to feel like anything, because then you start to not allow yourself to feel happiness, because you're like, what's the point? It's so fleeting, you know. That's you going into that cave, you know. But then, like he says, you know, you have to allow yourself to feel it. There's something beautiful about just feeling overwhelming pain and despair, you know.
So you can feel those highs even more.
Absolutely.
It's powerful that you, bring that up, because it just shows why we love this stuff so much, right?
Yeah.
Why we love Star Wars so much, why we love Stranger Things so much, and there are other examples as well. It's because they do, not all media is good at this, obviously, popular media, but when it's done right, these shows make you feel and help you understand yourself better. You know, They're incredibly emotionally powerful while being about crazy demonic things from a world that doesn't exist,
Right.
or a galaxy far, far away, right? But at the same time, they still have these incredibly human emotions, and just shows us, like, it almost makes you feel like you're not alone. It's an escape while also helping you realize, like, something, helping you learn something about life, which is, kind of a basic thing about kids shows is you got to learn something, right?
Yeah.
And it's just kind of put in there more sleekly to make you feel something. And like with what you're saying about feeling numb in that quote and not allowing yourself to feel, I think just from conversations we've had in the past, that's something that we both had struggles with big time at parts in our lives.
For sure.
Even in recent history. So it's just hard to remember that sometimes.
Yeah, it sneaks up on you like really quickly. And I think it's hard to gauge on your own, you know. And then when people like approaching you and they're like, hey, like I can tell something's not going good, then you're like, oh shit, like, yeah, you got me.
You got me. Caught me red-handed.
But it's why we need people, you know, because if we just did it on our own and just depended on ourselves, like it's so hard to gauge and see where we're actually at, for the good and for the bad. You know, sometimes you're doing a lot better than you actually think you are, and
but you're not even allowing yourself to feel any of that.
Yeah,
you're just kind of going through life, just doing stuff, without knowing or having any perspective of any kind. Yeah.
Totally true.
Incredibly powerful quote, for sure. Well, hopefully there's a lesson for this at the end of you if you stayed this long.
There you go. That's the reward, is you might get something out of it.
You might get something out of it. Just like you might get something out of our podcast. Please listen.
We'll have sponsors in no time.
We'll have sponsors. I feel incredibly cheesy. I'm going to end it now. Thank you, and bye-bye.